Good morning. Good Monday morning from Atlanta, Georgia. This is DrBill Williams on the Influencers Podcast, and we're so glad that you are all here joining us today. Hope you had a good weekend. I know that you're going to enjoy my first guest today on the Influencers Podcast. I have with us from Irving, Texas, Scott Schilling, the author. He's an executive coach. His book, That Sucks, What Now? With that title, it actually sucks you in to figure out what is this all about. So let's open up the door and bring Scott in. Hello, Scott.
Hey, Bill, how are you? Glad to be here.
I know you're not in Texas with that background. That's where we want to be, right?
That's exactly it. That's Cane Garden Bay in the British Virgin Islands.
BVI, I love it. Been there. I think I could go back any day and spend some more time. It's lovely. I got my sailing captainship right on that very coast. So I love it. You got a connection down to the BVI yourself?
My wife and I have a charter business that we haven't done much with lately, but back in the day, we used to do a fair amount. And so we'd go down there to all the boat shows and, you got to sample the product every once in a while.
Wonderful. Well, you're a highly acclaimed captain, I'm sure, if you do all that, if you have a charter business. But hey, glad to get together with you. We're going to talk about your book. We're going to talk about your coaching business as a trainer, as somebody who's in sales and marketing for 19 years. You have a world of experience that I want to share with our worldwide audience. We have people in 200 countries watching. We have people from all walks of life, but most of them are entrepreneurs. Most of them really want to know how to get unstuck so they can go on to that next higher level and create a new top. So I think it's perfect that your book is available to be discussed today on the Influencers Podcast. So let's let it go. And you, first of all, start off by telling us, where were you, what happened, and who were you surrounded by that inspired you to do the executive coaching and write this book?
Well, fortunately, I've been selling for 45 years. So I've been in that portion of the business, which is really meaning that you're in the people business. You're not in the product business. You're in the how do you communicate and work with people. That's why my moniker is the authentic connector. And so probably 22, 23, 4 years ago, I decided that I could serve more people if I went out as a professional speaker, trainer, coach, author, full time. I had been doing those tasks inside corporate America and decided to do it on my own. With that, I've written checks to 19 mentors across my career because experience is a wonderful teacher. It's just a very expensive teacher. You don't want to go out and get your own. If you can borrow it from somebody else or rent it, by writing them a check. And so when I decided to become a professional speaker, I found the best speaking mentor on the planet, paid him a lot of money, and I've done over 3,000 live events because of that. When I wanted to learn success, I went out and found that mentor and the success principles with Jack Canfield and everything that he's done, and so on and so on. Any area of life, you go out and, in my opinion, you go out and find those who have been there and done that, and more than likely are still out there doing it, and learn from them. The model has been created. All you have to do is learn and execute and implement that model. So what got me doing what I wanted to do? God put on my heart that I've been given talents and capabilities that some people don't have, and that I could ultimately serve more people by inspiring humanity through meaningful connections, teaching people how to make relationships, teaching people how to present to those relationships, and actually just putting people together. It's a novel concept. You listen to what other people want and need. And when you do that enough, typically you'll find somebody that they need to meet. And if you know that, you can put that together and all sorts of wonderful things can happen from there.
That's exactly the path I took. And I was really enjoying your laying out the path that people can see. How do you get from one place to another and get to the top of anything that you're trying to do. So, you really struck a chord when you said you're the authentic connector, because it's through other people that you get to the place you end up.
Absolutely. Everybody knows, everybody knows who you need to know at some point. Bob Bodine wrote an amazing book called The Power of Who, and basically says within your 12 closest connections is everybody you need to know on the planet. And it's pretty darn true.
Yeah, I mean, and who you pay as your mentors has a direct effect, because it's who you hang around, who you become. And I remember when I wanted to be an instructor, a teacher, I was a young dentist, didn't have any real gravitas at that point, but I had been to see every single leader in our field for 5 years. And so I sent a letter to each one, like 20 of them, and said, send me a letter of recommendation based on what you know about me. And with those letters, I turned them into an institute that I wanted to teach for. And I said, these people vouch for me. I'd like to be on your faculty. And I got to be a senior TMJ instructor with those introductions. And I taught, all around the United States and Canada for the last 25 years based on that initial, who do you know? So
yep, that's amazing.
I like it. You really hit my story well. And let's talk about your start that was including a failure. I always like to start off our discussions by the best failure story you have, so that you can tell us what you learned and overcame.
Well, you may or may not like this answer, but I don't believe that I've ever failed. I have had things not work right. I have had mistakes happen. I have had a bunch of different things, but to me, failure only happens when the 4-letter word comes in called quit. So what I've created actually for my coaching clients and for the folks that I work with is 5 questions to ask in any situation to take it from less than positive to a learning situation. So the questions are very simply, what's the lesson? What's the gift? What did I do to create this? How would I modify it next time to make it better? How is this going to serve me the rest of my life? So now when you come across a situation that's less than favorable, well, what's the lesson? Let's say that we had a podcast that didn't go off right. Well, what's the lesson? Well, maybe we could have had better streaming. Maybe we could have had better lighting. Maybe we could have, so the lesson is research it further. What's the gift? The gift is that the audio was still available and that could be pulled, stripped, and still put out. And there was valuable teaching in the podcast. What'd you do to create it? Well, you showed up. You made the outreach to the host and you got put together. What would you do to make it better next time? Again, better lighting, better streaming, better this, better that. Cool. How's it going to serve you the rest of your life? Gosh, what a great medium to be able to use. And it's easier than you think to create a podcast, to get valuable messages out. You can't be in control of who's going to hear it. You can only be in control of how you produce it. And so put it out there, and whomever is supposed to hear it will hear it. Great. A less than favorable situation just became a great learning lesson along the way.
Well, I like the fact that you don't accept failure as final and that you look at it as a lesson. Would you call that a 5-finger discount on learning?
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what I'm saying is, the fact is, all you have to really have is want to. If you got want to, I can coach a bunch of stuff around that. But if you don't have want to, that's a hard thing to produce. You have to want in your heart to improve and to learn and to grow and to want to apply it and implement it somewhere. One of the things that I share with clients all the time is when you've got a big enough what and a strong enough why, the how shows up. Most people worry about the how. How am I going to get this done? How would I get this started? How am I going to ... It's the wrong question. What do you want to do? Why do you want to do it? If those are strong enough and you share that with enough people, the how to do it will show up.
Scott, don't you find that the want to is sometimes influenced by the other two in the world, the get around to it?
Yeah.
You know,
There's no doubt.
procrastination.
Yeah, I got one of those round tuits on my desk a long, long time ago. You know, you, you just have to have some desire. You know, it's like when, you know, I had a great career. I mean, I was the vice president of sales and marketing for a company. We were doing all sorts of wonderful things. I had a really nice life. That being said, I felt like I could have more influence and I could serve more people if I went off speaking, training, coaching, writing. And so I made a choice, even though I had a nice life, to now depart into a new arena so that I could serve more, so that I could be more fulfilled by it. I mean, I had my job done. I was playing golf 4 days a week. I mean, my job was awesome. You know, here you are, vice president of sales. What do you do? I played golf. Right?
Kibitzing pays off, though.
Yeah, no, but that's exactly it. And you know, so I was relationship building a lot. That's cool. But then to teach those things and to help people understand that you can truly achieve. God has never put anything on anybody's heart he doesn't equip them to accomplish. So the question is, what do you want to do? Why do you want to do it? And how to do it will show up.
I like it. That's good. I remember when I was a young dentist, I had an office manager whose husband was a financial guy with Ingersoll Rand, and his job was to go play golf every day and just talk business as they putted around the course. I thought that was the greatest job. I was making a difference, you know, relieving pain and building smiles, and he was making a difference putting.
Yeah,
Like that's not fair.
to each their own, right?
That's right. But I think we both ended up doing good for the world. Hey, let's talk about other people's failures. You've seen a lot as an executive coach. Give us 3 reasons why people fail.
Well, the biggest one is probably failure to implement. You know, they learn, and they never put it into practice. You know,
Yeah.
the only way you get any feedback is to take an action. I had a client one day that said, "I'm stuck." I said, "Good, move." And she said, "I'm stuck." And I said, "Good, move." And she goes, "I don't think you understand. I'm stuck." I said, "No, I completely understand. Move." And she said, "What are you saying?" I said, "Can you feel your right foot?" "Yeah, move it." She goes, "Oh." And I said, "You're no longer stuck." The only way you can get any feedback is to take an action. You're going to be off course in life far more than you're ever on course. It's not, the problem is not being off course, because being off course gives you feedback. The goal should be to be off course less often, less far. So, you know, again, why do people fail? They fail to implement. And when they fail to implement, they can get no feedback to now help them to implement. So that's probably the biggest failure. The second would probably be undercapitalization. It's going to cost you twice as much to make half as much in double the time. It just is the way it works.
That's like misery cubed.
Yeah, it is. It kind of is to a certain extent, but I mean, it's so people that, and then I think probably one of the grandest failures is people make sales way too hard. It's really only 4 words: identify problem, provide solution. And what far too many people do is they get totally enamored with their solution, but there's really no problem that it solves. It makes them feel good or they get excited about it, but they're not talking to the people that it solves a problem for. So the thing that they miss is simply asking somebody, if you could improve one thing in your ... life, relationship with your wife, relationship with your kids, your financial position, your health, what would it be? If you could improve one thing in your life, what would it be? You ask the question and then you shut up and listen. And somebody tells you, well, if I could, ... my life would be better. Great. Can I offer a potential solution? Sure. Well, we have XYZ that could serve that. So the reality is that people don't take enough time to simply talk to people, to get to know them. People do business with those they know, like, and trust. One of the things I teach is assume if they don't know you, they don't like you. They may or may not, but assume they don't. And if they don't like you, assume that they don't trust you. They may or may not, but the fact is you have to have trust. Trust is imperative to do business together, to work together, to, people date those they know, like, and trust. People marry those they know, like, and trust. People divorce those they no longer trust. I can end the divorce problem. It's trust, but it's the same in business. Your customers go away because they don't trust you anymore. What have you not done to support them trusting you?
I like it. The 3 reasons people fail was outlined so clearly. The first one you said really resonated with my thought of what mentors do, what leaders do. You show people the way. You tell people the truth, and then they hopefully will follow the right path. I was in Hilton Head, South Carolina this weekend, and there was a sign on the beach that said, "Do not go out into the fluff mud." And I go, "What is fluff mud?" And you step into it and you go down, you don't stop. You just keep going down, and it can suck you down into the mud. So I was calling it suck mud. My wife said, "No, it's fluff." So whatever they call it, I stepped into it because I thought, I could step fast enough to step over it. No. And I lost a shoe, and to get that shoe out was tough.
Yeah, I'm sure.
People go into places they shouldn't go.
Well, I think that's a big part. People, one of my mentors, and I paid him a lot of money over time, came into town one day and he said, "I want to take you to dinner." He said, "I'm going to buy." And I said, "Well, that's a rarity. I'll take advantage of that. I'm the guy who's written you all the checks." And so we went out to dinner, and he said, "I had to do this because I have to ask you a question." And I said, "Okay." He said, "You're easily the most successful person that I've trained in this arena." And he said, I have to understand why. And I said, "Well, what do you mean? You taught me." And he said, "But you're the only one out of the thousands and thousands of students that I've trained over time has done everything that I suggested you do." He says, "I have to know why." And I said, "Okay, I'll answer your question if you answer 2 for me first." And he goes, "Okay." I said, "How many dollars worth of checks did I write you?" And he gave me a number, and I said, "That sounds about right. It's a pretty dang big number." I said, "How many of those checks did you cash?" He said, "Every one of them." I said, "Now you have your answer. Why would I pay you to learn everything you know about how to do this business properly and then not do it?" He said, "Believe it or not, you're the only one who ever has." See, people go find a mentor and take the information from that mentor and then implement 30, 40, 50, 60% of it because they want to have their spin on it. Get rid of your ego. If you could use your spin, you wouldn't have gone to the mentor in the first place, right? So I think that's the biggest thing. If you go learn from somebody, believe them and then implement it.
Scott, that's perfect. I really enjoyed the analogy, the story about following the mentor's suggestions. I've got 2 of them that I'll share back with you. Early in my time, J. Conrad Levinson was one of my big heroes. I studied under him, became a guerrilla marketing instructor in his group. And his first book I read was, the one that was the big one about guerrilla marketing. And so he had 200 things that are considered guerrilla marketing. So I just did them all. I started a new practice, started over at age 48. And we grew our business from $0 to $6 million. In that time period, 10 years, I did everything the first 2 years that was in his book. And I attribute all my growth to getting a great start by being really open to a marketing concept by somebody who knew what they were talking about.
Yeah,
And then,
absolutely.
and the second one I was going to recommend is Armin Morin was one of my early internet gurus that I followed. And he said there's 100 things you should do to be successful. And he kind of had a list of them for his business. So I just took that and applied it to dentistry. And I said to my students, as I taught for the next 10, 15 years, I said, here's what you do to be successful. Just do these 100 things in order.
Yeah.
You order up a little bit and you'll be successful. Guaranteed, no doubt.
It's interesting. Armin and I came kind of out of the same mentoring tree. And one of my books, Without Customers, You Got Nothing, has got 104 tips, techniques, and strategies to grow your business. So very, very similar. And that's how we grew one of my clients from 8 million to 100 million in 5.5 years.
Yeah, he wrote a book called Success Leaves Traces.
That's good.
So, hey, we could go on and on with all these good things because, you're an expert and you've done it all. Your company motto, you said, was the authentic connector. So you value connection. To grow, you got to connect. So let's talk about that and some success stories, some secrets. How do you model that and how do you teach that to be a good connector?
Well, I learned a great lesson. I was invited to a dinner one night, and there were a number of people that I didn't know. And so I was sitting at a table across from a gentleman, and he said, if you could sit and have a conversation with anybody dead or alive right now, who would it be? And I thought for a second. I said, well, that's easy, Richard Branson. And he goes, why? I said, I love his entrepreneurial mind. I mean, here's a guy who's got 300 plus companies. He's done all these things. He's innovative. He's fun. There's just so many great attributes about him. I would love to have a conversation. He goes, I can make that happen in 62 days. And he did.
So Necker Island.
Yep. I met Richard Branson 62 days later. And so it taught me a great lesson of simply asking people, if you could meet somebody that would help you in your business, if you could meet somebody that would help you in your relationships, if you could meet somebody that would help you and your kids, who would you like to meet? And I've had people say, are you telling me you know everybody on the planet? I said, no, I don't know everybody on the planet, but I kind of know a lot of people who know a lot of people. And so the chances are, and I don't ever just cold introduce people. So if you said, hey, I want to introduce, I'd love to meet XYZ, I'll call XYZ and say, hey, I ran across somebody. Here's what I learned about them. They would love to meet you. Are you willing to meet them? And if they say yes, then I'll do the cross introduction. If they say no, I'll say, oh, I checked and they're just not exploring that these days or whatever. I won't let them hanging. I'll tell them. So I don't just cold introduce people. I listen. And if you think about how you and I got together, I was talking to Sadiq, and we were just talking about what I had been up to and the book and a variety of different things. He says, well, would you like to be on a podcast? I said, I love being on podcasts. Are you kidding me? Any place I can extend reach and help more people, I'm good with. And he says, great, I've got somebody you need to meet. Perfect. He put us together. So very similar. He is an amazing networker, an amazing connector himself. It's for me, I've done 3,000 live events. I've shared the stage with virtually every name you know. You may or may not know my name. That's okay. That's not what it was about. I was doing the task I was asked to do. But in that time, I got to sit with those people, and believe it or not, some of the people that you would consider at the top really don't have that many resources to meet people because nobody talks to them. Nobody just sits down and has a conversation with them. I don't really care who anybody is. I mean, I was at an event last week, and there was a former Heisman Trophy winner and a former probably #1 TV show person. We were sitting back in the green room. I never said 2 words to them. And quite frankly, they never said 2 words to me because they were in other conversations. It's okay. It's great. They've accomplished wonderful things. Proud of them, excited for them. Had we had the conversations, great. But it's not like, oh, I've got to meet them. Oh, it's, we're all people. We've all been put on the planet to lift each other up, help each other out. And I believe God's plan and timing is perfect, and all things work together for my good. And so if I was supposed to meet them at that point, I would have. I didn't. It's okay. I'm not like sad or anything.
What happens in the green room stays in the green room, right?
That's right. That's true too, though.
Let me ask you this. People often will hire you to do services and all that. So why should somebody choose the Authentic Connector, Scott Schilling?
Well, because I understand the process, and I understand it has nothing to do with me or the product or opportunity I represent. It has everything to do with you, and has everything to do with your needs, your wants, your desires. So now, if I can identify your problem accurately, if we can have that conversation, and I have a potential solution that will enhance your life, your business, your career, your family, you should at least consider what I have to offer. And so it comes from a place of, I don't ever want to sell anybody anything, but I do always want them to buy a lot from me. Therefore, it's my responsibility to create that environment for them to want the solution I'm offering. But again, somebody said at one time, you could sell ice to Eskimos. And I said, well, what you don't realize is I don't sell ice to Eskimos. What I do is I understand if the Eskimos need the ice, and if they do, I supply it. It's a totally different attitude. I don't want to sell anybody anything.
I need to sell it, right?
That's right. I want somebody to buy it from me.
Tell me about your ideal client. Who would be somebody to seek you out typically?
Well, I've been fortunate to do a variety of different things across my career. So, there are multiple ideal clients. I speak for very large seminar companies, and so I deliver messages in their behalf. Over my career, I've become a third-party advocate. You can sell you, I can sell you better. That's not an egotistical or arrogant statement. It's a sales psychology statement. If you tell me you're the best dentist in the history of ever, I may or may not agree with you, and you may influence me. But quite frankly, what do I expect you to say? That you're the worst dentist in the history of ever? You would never say that. But conversely, if I say you're the best dentist in history, and I now ask you why that's the fact, and you answer it the exact same way, now it's informational, not egotistical or arrogant. So I train people. They buy my training and do it themselves. I coach and train with them, so I do it with them. Or I could be a sales advocate and do it for them. There are times where I actually sell people's products for them because, again, I understand it. And sometimes, especially entrepreneurs, they get so enamored with their own product that they can't get out of their own way, quite frankly. So, they're too passionate if that's possible. So again, the ideal client might be a seminar company that, you know, needs a product presented. It might be a company who needs a product presented through a seminar company. It might be an organization that has a great product, but can't seem to get it to seat in the marketplace. Their presentation just doesn't seem to be working. I listen to people's presentations and tweak them sometimes. So, and it's my ideal client is somebody who wants to do better with less effort, enjoy life more, and contribute to the planet, contribute to the humanity more. That's really my ideal client, is somebody who wants to contribute and lift others up. Those are the people I'd love to serve.
When you get down to it, you've made your mark, and now what you want to do is extend your philosophy of success to other people, and you want to train the people who are going to do the most good in the world. That's what I hear you saying.
Yep, that's exactly it.
Hit the nail on the head, because you've only got so many hammer swings you got left.
Yeah, what people don't realize is two telling two 32 and a half times covers all 8 billion plus people on the planet. It's 32 and a half iterations of two telling two. Everybody wants to tell the 1,000, the 10,000, the 20,000. Nobody wants to tell the two. If you would just teach the two to go out and teach the two and go like that and truly create a global community. My mission statement is pretty simple. Create a community of 1 million or more that maximize themselves spiritually, financially, personally, and professionally. Create enough influence to cause over $100 million in charitable giving, and positively impact 1 billion or more lives on the planet. That's it.
That's pretty clear.
Pretty simple.
It's pretty much my same audience that's listening right now, by the way.
Cool.
We have the same exact motto in different words, our theme of our existence. So the way you find your clients is word of mouth mostly?
Yeah, pretty much. I do a lot of podcasts. I have my own podcasts. I do other people's podcasts. But I'm constantly talking to people because I don't necessarily go out to look for my own clients. I go out and look to learn about people. And what that tends to do, once you connect them and do that, is create clients. So again, it's a little different process. It's not about. I come out of the Ziglar camp. I'm very blessed that I used to share the stage with Zig, and I got to know him, and I'm still fairly close to the Ziglar family. But there was a quote in his book, See You at the Top, that I read when I was probably 17 years old. Forever changed my life. You can have everything in life you want when you help enough other people get what they want. It was a positioning statement. It's a philosophy. Everything will come to you and for you when you're serving other people. So, it just opens itself to that. And, I never knew how much influence Zig had on my life until after he had passed, and you start thinking about it a little bit, and you realize that one quote totally changed my life. It set me on a path across a corporate career, across athletics, across everything. People would say, man, you're really a good teammate. Well, because we're a team, aren't we? One of the things I'm proudest of my son, they used to say, he is like the greatest team player ever. Who would do what he's doing? And what he did is whatever it took to support the team. Well, I think that's what it becomes all about, especially when we got 8 billion people and so many people are all about themselves.
Yeah. Now you talk about Zig Ziglar, and he was one of my early mentors also. Have you been to Yazoo City, Mississippi? Is the question.
I have not. I have
Well,
not.
I was in high school in Memphis, Tennessee, and also in Clinton, Mississippi, on both sides of Yazoo City, and so I'm very familiar with the area around Yazoo City. And Zig came from a very down home, earthy place, and so his common sense comes from living in a place that doesn't really put on airs, as you
Yeah.
might say.
I mean, if you did a presentation in front of Zig, he would be sitting in the front row with a pad of paper and a pen. We were at the last lunch we did together. We were sitting there and he pulled out 4 pens and he said, "Scott, you know why I got these pens?" And I said, "No, Zig, why?" He said, "Because a book could be fixing to get written."
He was a hero. My
Yep,
son actually
absolutely.
trained out in Dallas with the Ziglar Corporation as a public speaker. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we
Tom
love
Tommy's
Zig.
still a good friend, and Cindy and Julie, and again, I honor him because I never realized, it's a shame. I never realized while he was alive how much he did for me. But once he passed, I did. And so the very least is I can play some catch up.
If you look at your delivery of services, how do you do the 5-star client experience?
Well, I think a big part of it comes back down to the client. Obviously, you can implement the models and the things that those who consistently deliver 5-star experiences deliver. That's a good start. But I think the other thing is to truly talk with your clients, your customers, and ask them. There's the most amazing 2-question survey that I learned a number of years ago, and the first question is, how would you rate our service, 1 to 10? 10 being the best, 1 being the worst. And the second question simply is, if it's anything other than a 10, what would make it a 10? And so if you ask people, it's amazing. They'll give you an answer. We did that after a training one time and said, how would you rate your experience? And they said, as far as what we learned was an absolute 10, but as far as the room, it was a 7. He said, well, thank you for the 10 on what you learned. How could we have made the 7 into a 10 in the room? And they said, it was just too cold for us through the event. How simple is that, right?
I always heard if you don't have, it's because you don't ask.
Yeah, I mean, that's Mark Victor Hansen's new book. Well, it's not it is one of his new books, but I mean, you go all the way back to the Aladdin Factor with he and Jack Canfield, and it's ask, 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 ask. It's 7 asks. You might not get the answer until you get to the 7th one.
I like it. So the why came from the ask, 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 ask.
Exactly.
How do you convert the clients into brand ambassadors for you?
Well, I think one of them you have to do is you have to ask them, if what you have learned from me, if what you have experienced through working with me, if you have found significant value through our time together, would you be so kind to share that with people? Would you give me a testimonial that I can use with others? Would you be willing to take a phone call from somebody who's asking about experiences? Would you be able to, share in your settings and your sphere of influence um, positive things about our working relationship? Would you um, become a member of my affiliate program? So, but again, it's an honor to have people want to share uh, your systems, your education, your things. It's not a given by any stretch of the imagination, and shouldn't be treated like that. Like, gosh, don't you know who I am? You should want to do this. You should automatically do this because I'm whatever. And there's a lot of that goes on, quite frankly. And I really think that's a shame, because everybody's experience is their experience, and hopefully it's a great one.
What you're
And
saying is the follow up after the result,
yeah,
asked for in an honest, sincere way, paves the way for people to be natural in
yeah,
their support.
and people typically ask for referrals at the wrong time. And what I mean by that is and it's one of the concepts I teach, is the appropriate time, the very best time to ask for a referral is immediately upon a positive result, a positive transaction, a positive whatever, because it's fresh in that person's mind. So if we had a positive result and I said, hey, Bill, while I'm thinking about it, is there anybody else that could use the services that you just experienced? And you're going to say one of two things: yes, I do, or no, I don't. And either one of those answers is fine. If you say, yes, I do, I would then go, is it possible to get maybe a list or a name and contact information on that person? And when might I be able to expect that? You're either going to say yes or no to that. Or you're going to say, I can't think of anybody right now, to which then I would say, will you please keep what we did together top of mind enough that should it ever come up, that you would make that recommendation or referral in the future, or reach out to me so that I could contact them? Sure. It's, once again, referrals are an honor. They're not an obligation from your customer. And unfortunately, too many people take it as an obligation, right? Hey, I did this for you, so therefore you now owe me. Not the way it works.
I like the way you planted the seed, that it's a door that can swing open from both ways. You didn't close it off if you asked one time and they didn't say yes. You came back with another statement that was, allow me to open the door again, or you open the door again if you think of somebody. So that was beautiful. I think people listening in on the podcast will probably back up the tape and go back and write that down, because that was like a very significant close
Thank
that
you.
you laid out. So kudos for that. I had a really chuckle when you said it, and it's because somebody did the opposite to me. They asked for a referral after I had just had a bad experience with them, and I did not want what they were selling. And it was somebody's trying to sell bespoke clothing, personal tailor.
Yeah.
And they basically barged into the office while I was in the middle of my day, wormed their way into my office to hear their pitch. And when I said no, they immediately asked for referrals.
Yeah. So if it doesn't work for you, who might you know that I should, talk to? They
Yeah,
see
I
that.
was
Let's go
wondering.
back to know, like, and trust. People give referrals to people they know, like, and trust. If they
I didn't know him. I didn't like him. I didn't trust him.
exactly, that's why people. It's so funny. People make this entire process so hard, and it's not hard. There's some foundational knowledge that, if you understand the foundational knowledge, that trust to truly do business together and make it easy, and at higher margin with less effort, you need to have trust. And the greater trust you have, the easier it will be and the higher the margins will be because they trust you. It's not, they're willing to pay for the quality of the relationship. And so it's when people try to churn and burn people and just try to go through numbers and do whatever. I've had people that this actually happened not too long ago. Hadn't talked to somebody for 7 years. And all of a sudden he called and said, "Hey, would you be interested in this opportunity?" I said, "Absolutely. Thank you for thinking of me. I know we haven't talked." He said, "Well, I know that you're the same today as you've always been. And you treated me with that much respect in the past that I knew you would treat it with that much respect today."
That's what we all want, that little bit of respect.
Exactly.
Oh, let's talk about the legacy part of life. You have good advice for a lot of people, but what would you give yourself? What 20-year-old self, if you're talking to that young boy that's you, what are you going to tell him to do?
Learn faster. Experience more, learn faster. Don't fight it when you're younger. I know you'll find this hard to believe, but my parents got a lot smarter as I got older. So, and so did mentors, and so did other people. You come out typically full of pea and vinegar, and you just want to go make a name for yourself and do all sorts of different stuff. And sometimes you just gotta. The school of hard knocks is called the school of hard knocks because that's what you get. You get the education, but it hurts along the way. If you could do it without that, it would be better. Now, I don't know that I'm not sure I could have convinced a 20-year-old me of some of that stuff. But I like to say it this way, as we become more mature, that's code word for older. As we become more mature, we tend to find that some of these lessons would have been a whole lot better had we accepted them earlier.
One of my people I interviewed along the way really did focus on the fact that you really have to fail fast. Just get it over because you're going to fail. Figure out how to do it and move on.
Yeah, that's what I said, about learning more, experiencing more, read more earlier, get more mentors faster. It's interesting because my statement, I've written checks to 19 mentors across my career, but my statement to them was the exact same every time. And that was, give me everything you got. And my commitment to you is I won't keep it. I will share it with my students, with my clients. So I will expand your reach. So give me everything. And mentors would go, "You're the only one who's ever said that to me." And I said, "Well, it's what makes sense to me is you want to touch as many lives as you possibly can. I become an extension of yours, but I want to become a complete extension. So give me everything you got."
Yeah, I remember somebody that didn't have that philosophy. Back when I was doing the letters I talked about and wanted to become an instructor, 19 of the 20 sent a positive note back to me that said, "Yes, I'll support you, and I'm going to include this letter of recommendation that you can forward." One guy that I trained under didn't want his stuff taught to anybody else. He wanted to kind of hold on to it as his secret sauce. And when I had entered into the agreement with him to be taught, he said, "Don't teach anybody this for 1 year. Once you've experienced and gotten used to what we're doing for 1 year, then you can teach it." Well, this was 3 years later, and he still sent back a nasty little note and said, "What goes into a horse may start as oats, but it comes out like blank." And he didn't want to write a letter. So, I held that.
That's unfortunate. I mean, that just shows a lack mentality.
Yeah, well, that was scarcity mentality that he was jealous of somebody taking his invention technique system, and there are people like that. So I give you praise for being a sharer of information rather than a hoarder of information. Let's talk about the impact statement. Being impactful is important to you. Why, Steve?
Well, my life purpose statement is to inspire and empower others to serve humanity through living their life's purpose in spirit, love, and joy. And, I created that working with Jack Canfield many, many years ago. And it becomes the filter by which you determine things through. So, again, here's a request to come on your podcast. Well, let's run it through the filter to inspire and empower others. Well, I'll have that opportunity to help them live their life's purpose. Yeah, that'll be great. We'll get to do that in spirit, love, and joy. Closer to God than I've ever been. Love my wife, my family, my friends more than I ever have. Enjoy. It's why I went to this virtual background. I used to have all sorts of business settings. My favorite spot in the world is behind me right there. I get to look at it all day long. I get to go, wow, that's the British Virgin Islands. I just look forward to being down there again soon. So, that brings me joy because my wife and I and friends have had such amazing times down there. So I think that's why be impactful? Because you can. Why not utilize all the talents and capabilities God's granted you to live as fulfilled a life as you possibly can? And I'm not suggesting life is easy, and I'm not suggesting that it's always easy or you're not going to have challenges. That's called life. You're going to have all those things. It's getting through them all and doing what you can do moving forward that makes the difference.
I love it. Your background, it speaks to me. I think people are drawn to seascapes and oceans and shores, lighthouses, particularly shine a light on the good things. So, yeah, we resonate together on that. Tell me what you want to be remembered for when it's all said and done, Scott.
That I treated people with respect, honor, and dignity. As a good guy. That I cared, that I loved, that I helped, that I listened, that we worked to grow people to make the planet a better place.
Yeah, I think if we can do that, we have made our mark on the world, and you're certainly doing that. How can we at the Influencers Podcast support you in achieving your goal?
Well, number one, I'd love to meet you. For anybody who's listening that would love to start a relationship and start to know more about me so that I can know more about you, would love to connect with you. That's easy. It's Scott@scottschilling.com. I don't hide very well. I'm pretty easy to get a hold of. And if there are any opportunities where people need some of the things that I deliver, whether that be speaking or training or coaching or writing. If there are opportunities to share more quality messages, would love to have those opportunities. And similarly, I run into people that have opportunities every day, and I need to know people who can fulfill those as well. See, if I can match two people together, I've done something good for two friends. I'm okay. I'll be good with that. So again, supporting me, part of supporting me is actually allowing me to support you. That would help me too.
Well, thank you for all those kind words. And, you said that connecting people is your business. And Sadiq and I walk every morning when we can, because we live, just a few minutes away from each other here in Suwannee. And so we're business friends, but we're actually accountability partners.
Nice.
And so his connections and my connections start to overlap over the last 3 years, although we've known each other for close to 15 but we never did do business together. We were just aware of each other in the same town, being entrepreneurs. And it's a
awesome.
great honor to meet you, Scott, that you are part of his network. And that's how you found me on the Influencer podcast. So I can't think of a better thing to find out about. What would you say is your experience on being on this podcast?
I think it's fabulous. We're almost at 30 minutes already. It's just, no, I think the conversation we have has been very powerful. I love the questions and the things. And I think you're doing a great job with it. And I love the fact that you have a desire to serve others. We have very similar thought processes that way. So I'm honored to be here. Thank you for the opportunity. And, would love to be of service to you any way I can too.
Thanks so much for that. I think we are kindred spirits, and look forward to many days of doing fun things in the universe together. You have the final word. I'm going to let you talk, and then I'll come back at the end.
I would just say, my platform is really to do everything I can to return respect, honor, and dignity to the planet. Really, it's about inspiring humanity through meaningful connections. We all have the ability to connect. We all have the ability to be as good to each other as we choose to be. There's a lot of choice available. You just got to make some decisions sometimes. The word decision comes from the Latin decidere, to cut off. To cut off a different path to go on a new and more exciting and better path. So I appreciate the opportunity to present today. I appreciate the opportunity that of you listening. And if there's anything I can do to be of service, please feel free to reach out. I'm the Authentic Connector, Scott at theauthenticconnector.com, Scott at scottschilling.com. Look forward to meeting you all.
The Authentic Connector has just connected with thousands of people live online. We're on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, the StreamYard, of course, which is the broadcast, and we're also on YouTube. So, you can find him everywhere that you can find the Influencers podcast, including ONET. So, hey, everybody, I want to thank Scott for being here, being part of our audience, pleasing guest. You really did deliver for the audience today. So that's really the most important person that was served today was the people listening in. So thanks, Scott, for that. And I want to show you guys what's important. If you need to reach me, the digital business card I have is here, ovu.me at ONPASSIVE. And on that, you're going to find two things. You're going to find out how to reach me and get on the podcast. If you're interested in being on the podcast, we'll do a pre-screen and then we'll put you on the podcast if you have something that you would like to do that will positively influence the world. You can also learn more about what we're doing with AI technology in the realm of software and things that will make your life easier. And you can have more free time, more freedom if you access these things. And one thing I always talk to people about that are in the online marketing space particularly is you can do Google Analytics or you can do other web analytics, but we have the best one. And if you want to get it, it's called OTracker. And I want to suggest that everybody who's in business needs to look at it, and you can look at it right here for free, get a free trial to use it even at otrim.co/track'em. So those are the paid political announcements, as we say. And you are welcome to try anything for free that we have at the ONPASSIVE website. So thank you for listening in, everybody, on the Influencer Podcast. Scott, thanks again. I look forward to getting together with you soon. Good night, everybody. Good day, everybody. Around the world, we're on 24 different time zones. So when people are listening, it could be day or night. So thank you for tuning in. It's DrBill Williams, an Influencers Podcast, live from Atlanta, Georgia.